For me, I think it just started, I was in high school, and that's when everybody's trying to figure out, am I going to go to college? Am I going to get a job right away? What am I going to do? I had no idea what I was going to do. I knew that we couldn't afford for me to go to college. I had no idea how scholarships worked or how to do any of that. And I was kind of in a bad living situation. My aunt and my uncle were always arguing, and I lived with them at the time, and she would get really verbally abusive, and then he would get physically violent, and it was pretty awful all the time. And I remember my cousin, who were, all three of my cousins who were their kids, their actual kids, they were always having a hard time struggling and coping with it too. And I decided I just didn't want to be in that environment. I didn't want to be a part of that. So my response was to join the Marine Corps, because my brother, he had joined the Army, my grandpa was in the Air Force, my mom and dad were in the Navy. Everybody had done some branch, but I wanted to be Billy Badass, and I wanted to go be a Marine because that's just better than anything that they did. So that's what I decided. So I went and did that. And when I took my ASVAB, which is the military career test to see where you're going to get, what you can apply for, where you can get placed, I scored 81 out of 99, and that I didn't even think I was going to score that high. So the recruiter pulled out his career binder, which is always interesting to me because he pulls out the binder and he has a section for males and a section for females. Well, the section for males, no joke, was thick. Yeah. And then he flipped it to the section for females, which is maybe an inch, maybe. And I was just like, well, that kind of sucks already, but limits you in what you can and can't do. And my recruiter was actually an avionics technician. So he did electronics on helicopters. And he said, we've been working together for a while now, and you finally took your test. And I think that you'd be really good. You'd be well suited for this career. You're smart, and I think you have what it takes. And I was like, I don't even know what avionics is. I had no electrical or mechanical aptitude. I mean, I knew I wasn't dumb, but I just didn't see myself ever doing anything like that. He was like, well, here's your other options. And they were all, honestly, they were sitting behind a desk. And I am not that person. I'm not interested in sitting behind a desk every day of my life and pushing paperwork. That was the furthest thing from what I wanted to do. And I was like, okay, well, can I deploy in that field? Because I wanted to go do more. And he was like, yeah, I deployed. I went to Afghanistan twice. And I was like, okay, cool, bet. That's what I'm going to do then. So I went to the school. I went to boot camp. It's 3 months for Marines. I think we started with 120 females. And when we were done, there were only 70 of us. For whatever reason, they dropped back. You can only get dropped one time, and then you get dropped from the whole program. A lot of them don't make rifle qualification, shooting qual or swim qualification or the physical standards. There's lots of things. Or if you get hurt, you get dropped back into a reconditioning platoon, and they'll try to help you get back up to speed. But I made it through on my first shot. I went to combat training, did that, and that's a month long. Went to school in the naval base in Pensacola, Florida for avionics. And then after that, they sent me to North Carolina, Cherry Point. And that's where I did my communication and navigation specialties. And I just started working on radio equipment and navigation, GPS equipment and stuff like that. So basically anytime, it didn't matter if it was a rotary wing, a helicopter, or fixed wing, a jet. If something was wrong with the comm or nav systems, they would remove the unit and then send it to me in the shop. And it kind of became what I didn't want, which was sitting behind a desk. Only the desk, I'm not doing a lot of paperwork. I'm sitting there with a unit trying to fix a little electronic box. And that was pretty, to me at the time, it was boring. One, because the shop that I got put in for the communication and navigation systems, they would have a certain Marine do each unit, and they'd get really good at it, and that would be their thing. And that's boring as hell. I don't want to do the same thing all the time. So I started off doing little handheld walkie-talkies, our radios, and navigation or night vision goggles. I started doing those, and I got really good at those, and then I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to do something else because you get bored. And so I tried to do some communication equipment, and the guy that was doing the communication equipment, that was his jam. And so, of course, he didn't want to let that go. So he wouldn't really teach me. So I would read the manual myself and try to teach myself. But there's only so far you can get without anyone helping you with some things. And that was one of those things that I felt like I'm going to need some instruction. So I found another Marine who would teach me. And, I started learning a little bit of all the different systems. But it was incredibly boring because it was so limited. So often I would request to go do fleet assistance programs, to go do other things other than just sitting behind a bench and working on a little electronic box. So I volunteered to go do production control for a while. And that was just basically monitoring what comes off the aircraft broken, and then send it to the shop that needs to repair it, monitor it in the shop. If they need parts, I approve the parts, I figure out where to get them, coordinate all that. And then when they finish it and they fix it, I take it back and send it back to the squadron through like a supply truck. And it's just basically being a coordinator. And I really enjoyed doing that. I deployed to Afghanistan doing that. It was a lot of fun. But when I was in Afghanistan, I had less than a year on my contract when I deployed. And in each branch of the military, we have, everybody calls it something different. The Marine Corps and the Navy call it boat spaces. And the boat spaces in a job field or an MOS are limited. So let's say I am a 6414 communication navigation specialist. There are 80 boat spaces for corporals. And I was a corporal at the time. Cool, no problem. Well, when you want to re-enlist, you just submit a package. You have to have 3 months to submit the package. When I came back from deployment, I had less than 3 months on my contract, and I couldn't submit a package because they didn't have enough time to process it all. And I couldn't move MOSs because that takes 6 months, and I didn't have enough time to transfer job fields. So they were like, okay, well, you're just going to get out. And I was like, what? Like, I want to stay. This is not what I want. I want to stay in the Marine Corps. I want to make a career. I want to retire. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I had never thought about doing anything else because that's all I wanted to do. And they were like, well, sorry, you got to go. And this was in the time when Obama was pulling us out of Iraq and, getting us out, which is great. But it wasn't great for me because the number of boat spaces was drastically reduced to smaller numbers for a lot of our fields. So I got pushed out, and I was like, great, I had enough money saved up that I had a cushion for a while, but I didn't know what to do. I was like, I didn't see this happening. When I got out, I didn't have any plans to move anywhere. I had lost touch with like all of my family members. I didn't talk to any of them hardly. And so I was on my own, and I got a job at Walmart for 3 months just to kind of make some kind of income. And I absolutely hated it. I started working at a dining facility. And eventually I got back in contact with my brother and my mom, my biological mom, and they both lived in Texas. And he told me he had a job for me at his company. He works in a welding shop, it's called Metal Saw Technology. And they make gigantic saw blades, like the kinds that can cut cars in half. And so I was like, cool, I'll come do that. That sounds very hands-on and fun and not like I'm going to be sitting behind a desk. Like, I would love to come do that. So he was like, come on, I'll help you move. He drove up to North Carolina and helped me move down to Texas with him. And of course, when I got there, he had told his boss, hey, I have this Marine that wants to come work for you. And really hard worker, great work ethic, all this blah, blah, blah. I get there, and his boss is like, oh, it's a girl. They gave the job to a much less qualified individual who ended up being total garbage at the job too. So he actually ended up getting fired from the position in the long run. So I, again, just picked up a job at a gym. I was working in a gym for a while in a liquor store. And I was like, I really don't want to do this. This is not, I like to think that I have a higher standard for myself. And if I ever want to have a stable life, I need a career. So I started looking at what my MOS would transfer to, what my job would actually transfer to and maybe give me some credit for college. And airframe and power plant technician, getting a license for an airframe and power plant technician was one of the things that was on there. And I was like, I mean, I guess I could do that. I didn't have any like passion for it because after the Marine Corps, it was kind of just So I really went to the technical school for my license without feeling like this is really what I want to do. I kind of just did it out of like, I need a stable living environment and I need to make money. And when I was going to school, there was another student. Both of his parents worked for United Airlines. They were both A&P technicians that had been with the company for well over 10, 15 years. And they were doing great. Like they invited us over, a couple of the students over to the house one time for a barbecue. Their house was amazing. It was huge. They had so much stuff. They had a saltwater pool with a waterfall in the backyard. And I was like, man, 2 A&P technicians can make a lot of money. Let alone, just one, like being myself, I would be like, shit. So I was like, okay, so honestly, at that point, money was what drove me. I was like, I'm going to get this license. I'm going to do the best I can in class. I had like perfect attendance every month. And then I came up with, I think I graduated summa cum laude. And like, I had a 4.0 GPA and like, I was killing it because I really wanted to make that money, honestly. And then they had a competition team for the school. I think Yolanda might have told you she did something very similar, and that's where she got scouted by United. Same thing for me. I got scouted as a technician at the competition, and so even that drove me even more because I was like, that's what I want to work for because that kid's parents are making cool money, and I want to do that. After I graduated, I got hired on with United like a couple months later. Moved to California to the maintenance base, started working there. I was working, when I got there, they were like, okay, so, this is the interview for hiring. What's your experience? And I told them I've got 5 years of active duty military experience doing avionics, talking about computers and like navigation systems and the test equipment we use and everything like that. And they were like, cool. Where do you want to work? And I was like, line maintenance. They were like, okay, cool. And then we're going to put you in sheet metal. And I was like, what? I have 0 sheet metal experience except for what I learned at A&P school, which was like a week of playing with a rivet gun and pretending I knew what I did. I was very nervous for that, but I worked there for about a year in the sheet metal vac shops, and I got really good at riveting and measuring distances for rivets and the pitch, like the spacing between the rivets, and removing and repairing things like whenever a bird slams into the engine, it leaves a big old hole, so you got to figure out how to repair it. So I did a lot of those repairs, and I got really good at it, but I got bored of it again because you get an inlet for the engine in, and you repair that, and that's where I worked, on inlets. So, okay, a bird hit it at 12 o'clock, repair that, cool. Okay, this one, a bird hit it at 6 o'clock, repair that, cool. Okay, it gets old. Yeah. So I was like, I got to get out of here. So I wanted to go to line maintenance. They didn't have any openings. Fine, I just want to get out of here. Plus, the guys that work in the back shop, they're a little older and set in their ways. You know what I'm talking about. It's a good club. And so if you don't get along with one of them, their whole little clique of old men turns on you. And I saw it happen to a lot of people, but I'm good. In the Marine Corps, I'm good at just biting my tongue. Do whatever you got to do and get the hell out of there. So I transferred to the base maintenance called Special Route, where Yolanda worked. And it was a whole lot of just different stuff all the time. You do a lot of gear changes, but you also do things like flight controls, like flaps, slats, hail damage, bird strikes, just stuff that doesn't work and should work. Just all kinds of stuff. And it was so fun because you get to experience like a very big scope of everything. Yeah. And I had a lot of fun working there. And if California weren't so expensive to live in, I probably would have stayed there. But, came over here for the line maintenance job. We did get that layoff for a little while where we went to, Yolanda and I both got laid off, and we both got hired on at the same place, Air Transport International. So we were working line maintenance there, and we were both leads. And that was hilarious. I can't tell you how funny it was because we had no idea what we were doing. And it was really one of those jobs where they're like, you better figure it out. So we were constantly running around like little chickens with our heads cut off. Like, here comes an airplane, and we're expecting it to park right in front of us in this big empty spot, and it would just go right past us. And we'd be like, oh crap, like we would always get the job done, but it was very, we sounded like we knew what we were doing all the time. I mean, we did, don't get me wrong. But it was so fun. That job was, it was a hoot. It was a great way to get your feet wet. I make really good money. I feel comfortable, like I can take care of my mom. She went through breast cancer while I was working with United, and they helped me out, so many times with like coordinating. If she needed to go to chemo, I could take her and stuff like that. Like I love my job because I love United Airlines. I love, and I'm starting to really like what I do now too, because I feel confident, independent.